With the box office flops and miserable streaming disasters, it's clear that there's a problem with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Fans have been walking away, and even the mainstream media has been forced to admit it. But with Loki Season 2, there was some hope out there that maybe this can turn things around, that maybe it can deliver a much-needed hit for the MCU, because quite frankly, this was the most successful Marvel show that we saw on Disney+. It was the third one to come out after WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, but even still to this date, it is the most successful one in terms of viewership. By every metric, whether it's households reached or whether it's the millions of minutes that are watched, the first season of Loki was the biggest MCU streaming project they've had yet. And unfortunately for them, the data is starting to come in on Season 2, and it looks like it might be a massive drop-off from the success that they had for Season 1. Loki delivers strong viewing for Season 2 premiere, Disney Plus says. Oh, we're going to get into that. Yes, Disney has come out. This is how desperate they are for good news when it comes to Loki Season 2 already. Before any other third parties could come out and give an estimation as to what the viewing numbers were, Disney put out a press release. Just like they did when they were doing Damage Control with the Ahsoka series, which ended up being very fucking bad ratings for Disney. They're doing that preemptively when it comes to Loki. The streamer is touting the tune-in for the opening episode of the Marvel series. The second season of Loki had a solid opening for Disney Plus, according to internal viewing data from the streamer. The Season 2 premiere of the Marvel series racked up 10.9 million views worldwide over its first 3 days plus a few hours, as defined by the industry standard formula of total viewing divided by the runtime. Loki premiered at 9 p.m. Eastern, we know that. With a 47-minute runtime for the episode, that equates to 512 million minutes of total viewing. That would be a decently impressive number if we were talking about a domestic number. This is a global number. And they even make an admission a little bit later on in this article. It is tracking slightly ahead of Ahsoka. 10.9 million views in 3 days, well, 3+ days, as opposed to Ahsoka's 14 million views in about 5+ days. But they say it is tracking slightly ahead of Ahsoka. Both of those are tracking well behind what Disney has said was the biggest series premiere on their streaming service this year, and that's Mandalorian Season 3. If you can remember all the way back to then, do you remember what the reaction was to Mandalorian Season 3 viewership? Because I do. Mandalorian Season 3 suffers weak premiere viewership. Disney was incredibly disappointed with the debut for Mandalorian Season 3. It was a massive drop-off from the first couple of seasons, even lower than something like Book of Boba Fett. Back in March, everybody viewed that as a very bad number. Now, that is the best number they've seen for any of these Disney Plus series this year. But it even gets worse for Loki when you start really looking at these numbers. Because right now, for its premiere episode for Season 2, they're claiming 10.9 million views globally over the first 3+ days. If you just go back to Loki Season 1, because again, we don't have these third-party numbers. All we have is what Disney's telling us. But even if you just go by that, let's go back to Season 1 of Loki. We know Samba TV tracked it at about 2.5 million households for those first 4 days. We know because they said it's less than The Mandalorian, it has to be less than 1.5 million, tracking slightly better than Ahsoka. I think that Loki's going to end up somewhere in the 1.2, 1.3 million households, which is going to be a drop-off about half its audience. And this is the reason why I think that. You can kind of back it up when you look at some of this data. Loki debuts in 3rd place in Nielsen streaming ratings. This is all the way back in 2021. What do we know about this? We know that the premiere of Loki was viewed domestically here in the United States, 731 million minutes. Just that number domestically is significantly more than the numbers viewed that we have for Loki Season 2, which is at 512 million minutes, just for the record. But when we break it down, we can actually get the view count. If I take the minutes watched divided by, it was a 52-minute episode, you get a little over 14 million. That's the amount of views, the way Disney counts them, for Loki, the premiere of Season 1. Just domestically, not a worldwide number like they were giving for Ahsoka or like they're giving for Loki Season 2. Just domestically here in the United States, which means that for Loki Season 2, even with a very similar runtime, you're looking at 47 minutes versus 52 minutes, you're talking about a significant drop-off. Based on the splits we've seen for international versus domestic viewing, it would not surprise me if that number, when it's all said and done, totals up to around 7 million total views, which would be about half of the audience of that first season. Things are really starting to add up, aren't they? We're going to have to wait for the third-party data to really reveal some of these things and try to get some of these numbers. But just based off what Disney themselves showed, that globally, they're sitting there at 512 million minutes watched. We already know the writing's on the wall. We already know it's a massive drop-off from the first season. We know it didn't even match the disappointing numbers for Mandalorian Season 3. They told us that themselves. They can come out and tout it and praise it all they want, but if at the end of the day we're able to look at these numbers and we see you lost half of your audience, it is a disaster for them. The most successful streamer that they had when it comes to Marvel Disney Plus series may have lost half of its audience between season 1 and season 2, just based on the numbers that Marvel themselves, that Disney themselves had to put out there in order to already start doing damage control before some of the numbers start coming out. What do you guys think about this? Did you see Loki Season 2? I personally thought it was better than the Ahsoka series. Probably should have been a 2-episode premiere, I think, to give people a little bit more story. But either way, it's out there. I do think it's better than Ahsoka, but that's not saying much. What do you guys think about this news? Let me know in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.